And it doesn't have to be a race. And there's enough people online, on LinkedIn, on all of the social media platforms in the world for us all to be successful. But what we need to do is give them a reason to choose us. And the best way to do that is to be uncopyable.
Hey, welcome to a podcast where dreams meet determination and success is just around the corner. I'm your host, Suzanne Taylor-King, and I'm here to help you unlock the full potential of your business and your life. Welcome to Unlock Your Way with STK. Let's unlock your path to success together. Good morning, everyone. Suzanne Taylor-King here for another amazing episode of Unlock Your Way with STK. And we're here today with the incredible Deirdre Martin, all the way from Ireland. So for all my Irish people in the house, this is your girl. She's a brand strategist, business mentor, and all around amazingly funny, charismatic, incredible human I got to connect with. And I just knew I had to bring her on and have this conversation for all of you. So welcome, Deirdre.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. One of the things I love about you, your content, and just the way you show up is this idea of being uncopyable, and how you have to tell us how you got to that place. So a little bit of your story about how you got there.
Okay, so, where to start with that? Firstly, I think it's really common when business owners start out to look at all of the other businesses that they know and try to model what they create or build based on what they've seen other people do, or model the companies that they worked in, but maybe tweak one or two things. But actually, what I realized was that what we need to create is a category of one, so that when you show up for your ideal clients, that you are the only person that they think of when they're looking for a particular thing. And the best way to do that is around positioning and strategically placing yourself, whereby even if I'm a business mentor, I don't call myself a business coach per se, I do a little bit of business coaching. But, Suzanne, you and I do a lot of similar things in what we do with our clients. But you're uncopyable. You do really cool stuff with your clients. I'm uncopyable because I have my own unique frameworks and methods that I bring clients through. So when people think about strategy and messaging, they think about me. When people think about, Coke, they think about Coca-Cola. Yeah, you might think, well, Pepsi are trying to copy Coca-Cola, but Pepsi can never be Coca-Cola, right? You look at brands like, I don't know, I want to say cars. You want to look at car brands, and you think of the word safety. And which brand comes to your mind when I say cars and safety? Which one crops up?
Volvo.
Right. Okay. So to be uncopyable, what I figured out was I can be just like everybody else. I can look at all of these people who are out there and look at them and consider them to be competitors, but we're not competing together. We're not in the same race, and it doesn't have to be a race. And there's enough people online, on LinkedIn, on all of the social media platforms in the world for us all to be successful.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is give them a reason to choose us. And the best way to do that is to be uncopyable. And that can be with how you look, how you sound, the quality, the feeling that people get when they work with you. It can be your location. There's so many different ways you can create that uncopyableness, but it's figuring out, what is everybody else doing? How are they all zigging? And it's looking at them in that way, not to compare, but to say, okay, they're all zigging. I'm going to zag. I'm going to go this way. And then when you do that, that's how you position yourself in the mind of your clients in terms of being the only one who's doing that thing.
Yeah. I love this so much because I think that's the growth differentiator for so many people, that I had to, if I wanted to grow, I had to lean into that. And it takes some bravery, and it takes some willingness to be unique and stand in, whether it's your personality, your unique genius. For me, it was answering this question of how I do what I do. And instead of me saying, oh, I don't know, you just do it, I actually had to explore what are the steps? Like, they're unconscious to me. But if I'm going to teach it, write about it, mentor somebody through it, I need to know the steps. What are the steps? The micro steps, the big steps. And that's really work that has taken me years, but it's also very introspective journey that most people aren't willing to go to.
Yeah, you're so right. And I think it is absolutely the growth differentiator. And a lot of people never get there. And other people, when they start their business, they have it. They have it
Yes.
immediately. And
Yes.
they're very fortunate to have that. And that could be because of a vision that they have that positions them that way from day one. It could be because they've come up with something that's so innovative that nobody's ever going to be able to copy them. And so I think it is very much around looking, like you said, at all of the things that you have in your business and unpacking it. And for me, it was a little bit around, okay, well, I'm doing it, I'm doing this, I'm doing it this way. How can I make that difference so nobody else can do it in my way? And, one of the great things that can help in doing that is naming your process and your framework. Because once it's yours, and I know you talk about this, Suzanne, it's your IP and your
Yes.
method. And once it becomes your IP and your method, well, that in and of itself makes you uncopyable.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that you can become known for. So it helps you to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, there's a couple words and, things that I'm big on words and Latin meaning of words and all of that. And there's a couple that really stuck out to me when I was looking at my process and what I do. And the thing I love about you is that, you're using unique words in almost every piece of content you have, whether it's your podcast, whether it's your content on LinkedIn, which is where I follow you, but you're using not jargon. Jargon, industry jargon is different. This is words that have meaning to you and your business. And then for the people that are reading your content, they're like, oh, I want to be uncopyable. Because that identifies you to me, because I don't see hundreds of other people using that word. And that in itself is a unique differentiator in the market. And
yeah.
I remember working with a branding person a couple years ago before I extracted, what I'm doing now. And I said, I want to be a eudaimonologist, because it's this Greek word, daimon, that's the inner best version of yourself. And I want to help and guide and mentor business owners to bring out that inner best version of themselves, show it to the world, and profit from it. Well, I'm just going to name it. And she looked at me and she said, you can't do that. I said, why? Well, because nobody knows what it is. Well, that excited me. That I was like, great. I don't want anybody to know what it is, because I want people who are curious to ask me what it is and have that start a conversation. And the people who don't are not my ideal clients. And it was this freeing moment of totally being yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. And I think what you can do, a way to become uncopyable, you've just described it perfectly, is part of your messaging. So
Yeah.
usually one of the first steps for every client that I work with is I work on uncopyable messaging. And what that looks like is creating a brand story for them, but in my unique way, also incorporating the story brand framework. But it's story brand on steroids, right? That's how I do it. So I've got my way to leverage story brand and make it even better. And one of the things that I create for clients as a result of that messaging session is a word bank. And that word bank is taking all of those phrases, not the jargon stuff. Sometimes I even include a jargon buster, depending on the client. Sometimes they need it. But what we do is we create a vault or a bank of words and phrases that people can associate with you, because the idea being that you inject these words intentionally into your copy, your social media posts, your sales conversations, your website, and everywhere. And that's how certain words become synonymous with you, right? So, for example, right now, one of the things I'm working on is, you heard it here first, Suzanne, I'm about to launch a new mastermind. And I've never run a mastermind before. I'm so excited. I've been in so many masterminds over the last number of years, and I'm really, really, really excited to run my own. And my mastermind is for people who want to make their first million or make multiples in their business. So I'm calling it Millionize. I want people to be millionized, and it's going to be the Millionized Mastermind. And naming is so important. Like, people, I think, underestimate the importance of naming, because naming, again, is something that can make you uncopyable and different. And so, in the Millionize, we will have a Millionized vault of resources. We'll have Millionized CEO board meetings. We'll have things like that. We'll have a Millionized SOS option if people need it. But the idea being is that there's a bank of words that becomes synonymous with this program that I'm going to offer. And the idea being is that when people think about making a million, they'll think of Millionize, because they'll hear this language over and over and over again. And so it's intentional. It's intentional familiarity. And why that's so important is because when you use those phrases and keywords, and not for SEO purposes, when you use them, what happens with that familiarity is people start to trust it.
Right.
And people buy when they trust you. They buy when they're familiar with what it is that you're offering. And the best way to do that is to be repetitive.
Ugh.
Right?
The hardest thing to do for my clients, number one, is that, because my clients are creative like me, visionary like me, and talking about the same thing all the time is not where they want to play. And I remember having that conversation with a whole group of clients. And I said, pick 5 topics and you talk about those 5 topics all the time on social media. That's it. Those 5 topics, details of those 5 topics, and they all lead to wherever you want people to go. And it's the hardest thing to do when you're creative and visionary and multi-passionate. But it's the utmost important thing to do, is exactly what you're saying, to be repetitive, use those same words all the time. So now, what advice do you give the multi-passionate, creative visionary who might read something this morning? This is me we're talking about right now, who read something this morning about a SaaS company, software as a service, that is doing some amazing things in the cold email sales genre, unlike any other. I don't like cold email, but this angle intrigued me, and it sent me down a 20-minute rabbit hole this morning, learning about this software and sending it to my sales coach. And I love talking and learning about stuff like that, but I had to learn to not share it with everybody because it confused the market.
Yes. And if you confuse, you'll lose. But I hear you. I hear you about those things. I love AI. I'm an avid AI user. I promote AI. I recommend that people use AI. And I think that there is a time and a place to talk about those things. I think that those things can 100% support and serve your audience. But I think once you come across something like that, I think the key word for me that I took from what you were saying about your 20-minute deep dive into that rabbit hole was learning. You were learning something. And, learning is good. Learning is safe. And learning can make us feel good. But equally, there are opportunities and ways that we can grow by learning. And so I think what you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's about learning those things, maybe trying them yourself before you share and introduce them.
Yeah.
But then, and you've got an episode on your show already, Suzanne, about content pillars, because I listened to it and, I know you do. And what you can do is you could introduce under one of your content pillars something that relates to what you've learned. But once it comes back and resonates in some way with one of the topics in your content pillars, and that can be you keeping up with trends, with what's current, with what's going on. But it doesn't mean that you're veering totally off track. And, sometimes people regularly ask me, Deirdre, on LinkedIn, because mostly my clients are on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out all the time. But people typically ask me, Deirdre, can I share a personal story of me on LinkedIn? Or, if I'm going for a walk on a trail, a hike on a trail with my dog, can I share that? And I'm like, yeah, but share why you're on that walk. What, got to do with boundaries in your business? Do you have such set boundaries that you can close your laptop and go for a walk? And then do you talk about boundaries with your clients? Is that something that you teach them? And if so, well, then break down 3 tips that shows you're literally living what you do. And so if you go down a rabbit hole and you learn around about this cold email thing, Suzanne, if that relates back to a growth topic or pillar that you have, then it reinforces that you are different. It reinforces that you are on this growth curve and learning journey, because we can't all stay the same. And even to be uncopyable, we have to manage that and make sure that we remain uncopyable by staying ahead of what's coming. And there's so much coming with technology. So keep learning.
Love of learning is my number 1 or 2 top character strength. So I feel lucky that the career I chose for the second half of my life allows me to basically get paid to learn for other people, even though it's a joy for me, right? I can look at it as I'm learning for my clients. And I remember the first time that I leaned into that and offered AI tools with a program I was teaching. And I didn't put it on the sales page, but it was there every week, and people would show up and they would get a tool to help them do whatever we were doing. And at the end of that 7-8 week program, that was everyone's favorite part. And I didn't I didn't use that to market. I didn't use it to sell the program. It wasn't one of the bonuses. It was a surprise when people got there. And every single person was that. That was the thing that made it so much more valuable. And that made me say, that's part of my unique genius. It has to be included with everything I do. And standing in that, how do you help people have the bravery? I have built in bravery, but many people don't. How do you tackle that piece of it?
Oh, that's such a great question. And, even for me, it's been a journey because, like you, I had great bravery for quite a long time. And I think once I hit adulthood, that kind of maybe with responsibility,
Yeah.
maybe I wasn't so brave, a little bit more risk averse. But I think one of the things is encouraging people to stretch themselves very much and identifying if there's a fear, what that fear is and why you're letting it hold you back. Because one of the things about being uncopyable is that you need to be brave. You need to be able to not just step outside your comfort zone, but step so far away from your comfort zone that there's no going back. Because in your comfort zone, other people can get there.
Yeah.
And the question comes down to personal. It's a personal decision. It's a personal check-in. How successful do you want to be? What are your motivations for doing things? And what are the blockers that are holding you back from pushing, from doing those things? What is actually stopping you? And if it's a case that there's something that's holding you back, what are the consequences of staying stuck? What are the consequences of staying small? Because sometimes what happens is the consequences are so intangible, or there's something that we never consider, that we feel it's safer to stay stuck. But once we become aware of what it is, then it's like, okay, yeah, that's dangerous staying there. It's actually less of a risk to be brave and move forward and do the thing. And, I think a lot of it, as I say, it comes down to fear. And that fear can be fear of rejection, fear of regret, um, fear of failure, and also fear of success. And it can be with the success, it can be the responsibility that comes with the success, which again, people often don't consider. Like, if this really takes off, oh my gosh, I'm going to have so many clients. I'm going to have so many things to put out there. How am I going to cope with that? And that can feel like a lot. But to take your character strength, one being of learning, is that it is a learning process. It is a growth journey. And on that journey, you have to make a decision. And I think if we don't feel challenged, if it's not making us a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit nervous, then it's not challenging enough. And you're not pushing far enough beyond your boundaries or comfort zone to be different enough. And again, the growth is in the differentiation.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as you said that, I was like, well, that's why I got rid of things last year that were too easy, that I didn't have to learn anything to show up and do. And that realization that I'm deleting something that doesn't require prep. I'm deleting something that I could show up. You could tell me the topic, 5 minutes before the mastermind group started, and done. Because it wasn't challenging me, and that sounds arrogant or whatever, I don't care at this point. It was too easy for me to be excited about it. And I know myself. I know that if something, oh yeah, I know how to do that. That's easy. If I feel that way, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to be able to say, that I'm going to have to learn this, this, and this. I'll have to figure out a problem in order to do that thing. And I love problems. Give me more problems. I want to figure them out. And leaning into that unique ability was exactly where I had to go for myself so that I could help other people do it.
It's interesting too, because some people probably told you or asked you, what are you doing, Suzanne? That's crazy. Why are you doing that? It's easy. The money's coming in. The clients are coming in. You can do it. It only takes you 5 minutes prep. Why would you stop that? But that is exactly where the magic is. And again, one of your episodes that I listened to previously, I was with Jose Escobar, and I love what he'd said. He mentioned about people were saying to him, you can't build a business organically. And he's made over $1 million by building his business organically. People told him he was nuts and that it couldn't be done. Yes, it can be done. And I think a lot of it comes from, and where that decision comes from, to come back to your point. And it was interesting. I've heard one of my clients actually say this today on an Instagram story. And what she said was, and Jose had that same realization, it's like where it's easy, it can feel like it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Right? And our businesses are not hobbies. We are in business to make money. And the more money we make, the more people we can help. The more people we help, the more money we make. Right? So it is about service. And when we show up with that mindset of, easy is nice, simple is better. If we can create something bigger and bolder, but yet simple, it can, like, you can millionize it, right? You can millionize it, and it can be magical. But I love that you're totally stretching yourself with what you're doing and stepping away from what feels too easy. So kudos to you.
Well, I want to know, like, that line of decision. I'm always reminded of Bright Line Eating and Susan Pierce Thompson's work with just becoming the person who no longer does a thing, right? To change a habit. And I remember making a comment one time on social media about just deciding, like, just draw a line in the sand, step over the line, and decide that Suzanne or Deirdre doesn't go back over that line again. I'm no longer that person, whether it's giving up drinking or smoking or Diet Coke. It was Diet Coke for me, right? It was Suzanne doesn't drink Diet Coke anymore. Okay, just become that person. And in business, that line of decision, and I got some criticism for that comment. Oh, it's not that easy. Yeah, to me it is.
Yeah, me too.
Just decide. What did that look like for you when you got to a point where you knew you had to take this unique combination of knowledge that you acquired over the years? What was the decision for you that truly changed things?
A great question. And like you, I gave up alcohol. That was my line in the sand. No alcohol for 2023 and a lot of 2024. So I think the decision for me was actually at the end of 2022. So my business started in January 2021. And initially, when I started, I began and I was going to be a customer experience specialist. I love customer experience. And that was quite niche, and how my approach was totally unique. And I started to get some clients. From the very first post I put on LinkedIn, I got a 5-figure client. Okay.
Amazing.
It was amazing. But I did not enjoy working with those bigger clients. And I really wanted to work with small business owners who didn't have access to a lot of the tools and training and things that I learned throughout a 20-year corporate career. And I really wanted to be able to help them in that way. But it took me a while to figure out what that was going to be. And in my time figuring it out, my bank account started to like run low, so low. And the difficult conversations started to come with my husband, where he was like, "Hey, Dee, you're going to be able to contribute to the mortgage this month?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure."
Yeah.
And that was really freaking scary. And why it was so scary was because I really did not want to go back to my old corporate job. I was not happy. I was on this hamster wheel where I was going in every day. I mean, I did a good job. I got loads of promotions and I was making really good money. I was making more than six figures. And I just would rather work 80 hours for myself every week than work 40 hours for someone else. And so it got to the stage where I had no money left in my account. It was December 2022, but I fundamentally believed that I could make a difference, that I could serve people and that I could help them. But I'd gotten lost in my journey. And so I had a coach, and what had happened was, because funds had gotten so low, I'd paused my coaching, or we'd finished and I hadn't renewed. And I had some money set aside for tax for the following year. And there was a guy I'd been following on Instagram for some time, and I just loved his content. It really spoke to me. And I reached out to him and I was like, I just can't put my finger on what's holding me back, why things aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing for me. He was like, okay, I can help you. And I'm like, right, I have no money. I can give you the money I have. He was like, I usually work with people for a year. I'm like, can't afford to pay you for a year. He was like, do you want to join my group program? And I'm like, no, I've been in tons of group programs and,
Yeah.
this isn't working for me. And I know things are good. Like people are reaching out and they're like, Deirdre, your content is really helping me. Deirdre, I've made money from just doing what you tell me to do with your content. And I'm like, why aren't you paying to work with me? And so the decision was, he said he would work with me for 3 months. And so all of my money was gone. And I had only paid him for 1 month. And I did not know where the money was going to come from to pay my mortgage, to pay this guy who I just hired. I had no idea.
Yep.
But the idea that I did have, or the belief that I had, was that I can absolutely help people. And I was so confident that I could help people because I was helping people and these people were getting incredible results. One of my clients went from 300K to 900K in less than 12 months. And I'm like, I can do this.
Yes.
But why aren't they coming? So that decision was, it's like this, Deirdre. You've got to make this work now. This has to work now. No more hobby. This is not a hobby anymore. You've done the figuring out. You've done the learning. You're getting the results. You need to take serious action. Serious action. Whatever it takes. And within 3 months, I was nearly at 100K.
Beautiful.
And it just went from there. But that was the decision, Suzanne. That decision was, it's make or break here. I've got to get really serious about this. A lot of it was not necessarily drawing a line in the sand for me. It was putting a stake in the ground. I wanted to serve everyone, and a part of me, and I think this was perimenopause, to be honest, as well. I was afraid, and I'd never experienced fear before like it. I never suffered with anxiety, but this was anxiety about calling out who I really wanted to work with. I was anxious about calling out who I wanted to work with. Like, what? Why? I don't know. But once I got over that and got over myself, got out of my own way, things took off. And oh my gosh, the ideal paying clients they're reaching out to me to say, Deirdre, how can we work with you? It's just been a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the fact that you were willing to invest in yourself because of that internal belief, like you were already getting results. You were confident in the transformation that you were providing. And I think that's key. Step one, be confident in the transformation you're providing. And if you're not, get that way, because that's what's required. You have to be. You have to believe in your own product. You have to be a product of your product too, right? You have to do the work. It's plainly obvious that you did the work on yourself first. And I think that's a missing piece in so much of the internet marketing world, content world. And I want to ask now, content marketing is interesting to me, putting content out there in order to meet people, right? In order to have people reach out to you, in order, to maybe have somebody hire you. I have noticed in the past, probably year, that the content I put out is really just the authority and trust builder, that the reason people are reaching out is because of events and trust and meeting me, or hearing about me from someone else, not necessarily reading a post and saying, oh, I need to hire Suzanne. But when they look at my content, they're like, oh, yeah, so-and-so mentioned her and I need to have a conversation. So it's kind of like this. It's not the catalyst for making somebody push buy, but I feel like it's the relationship starter. And it's kind of the, oh yeah, she's legit because she's producing information. And oh, there's her information. There's the body of work. So that ups the trust factor. Have you noticed that for yourself as well?
Yes, and for clients. And I think very much, part of my strategy, the third part that I would say is the how to raise your hand and say I'm open for business piece, and doing that in such an effective way that it doesn't sound like you're like, hey, please come and buy from me, because nobody likes that, right? And that can be repelling. So I think you've got to, in your content, you've got to look at that part. And I don't know, how many times is it? They say 24 times it takes before somebody trusts you and likes you. And so definitely in terms of the content and frequent content and consistency with your content absolutely helps you bring strangers into your world, into your little corner of the internet. And then once they come into your corner of the internet, it's to like drown them in value, in stuff that's going to help them, in stuff that's going to be pragmatic enough or inspiring enough so that they can keep going on their journey. And they get a little nugget of wisdom, or something that they can take that makes their life or their day or their business or their relationships better or their bank account better. Well, then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And
Yes.
I think in doing that, you definitely build trust. And I always say, how bad is it to be known as the generous person? How bad is, somebody said that to me the other day, Deirdre, you're so generous with the knowledge that you share. And I'm like, well, I'd rather be known as generous than stingy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think to add to that, to go back to the hand raise point, the nicest way to raise your hand and get people to take action and reach out to ask them to buy without them coming into a masterclass or onto your email list is to share stories. And those stories are so powerful. So if you share a story about a client's success, like those are my favorite stories to share.
Yes.
And it can be, Suzanne came to me and she had this challenge, or she went from this to this. So you talk about the transformation that they experience and the steps that you brought them through. And those steps should align with your offer and the pillars that you talk about in your content. And so at the end, you can say something like, I am available to work with however many more clients right now, or You add some scarcity and urgency, or tell people, put in your one-liner or your I help statement. These are the people that I help. And when you do that, you will get more people reaching out to ask to work with you, especially if you've been warming them up by drowning them in value.
Yeah, I think it's the value thing for me that really, I always use the term massive value, and people will ask, like, well, what's massive value? And well, it all depends on how the person in front of you perceives value. So it could be time, it could be a comment, it could be a share, it could be advice, it could be introductions, it could be for somebody yesterday who I just met, massive value to him. He was telling me he was getting ready to close a deal right after his conversation with me. And he mentioned the name of the company. And I said, oh, the dental supply company? I happen to have a 20-year career in dentistry. If it would help you close that deal to have a business coach who used to be a dental hygienist in your pocket, please drop my name. It helped him close the deal. Well, I'm not expecting money from that. I'm enhancing my relationship with that person and being of value, of service. I don't know where it's going to lead. I don't have an expectation of where it's going to lead, but that's how you have to show up in the online space today, whether it's in a post or a video or anything that you're talking about. That's what gets people to know, like, and trust you. And I hate to say it, but there's been, in 15 years, there's never been a post on social media for me that has driven someone to a sales page and made them click buy for anything over $1,000. Not one, not ever. It's always been a trust-based conversation or some sort of group interaction that's made people click purchase.
That's interesting. And, to come back to the value piece, from a customer experience perspective, value is actually measurable. And most
Yes.
people aren't aware of this. There is a formula for value. And I talk about this a lot because it comes back to brand strategy. But actually, a lot of the stuff that I do in brand strategy, interestingly, is about customer experience. But I don't call it that because a lot of my ideal clients don't really grasp the full extent of what customer experience actually is. But value, the formula for value is equal to experience minus expectations.
Oh, that's awesome.
So your guy yesterday, he was like expecting you to probably come on and have a coffee chat and try and sell him something. And actually what you did was you so surpassed his expectations by not selling him anything that he went off thinking that's incredible value. And Suzanne, I bet my bottom dollar he will be back to work with you once those funds start rolling in from that contract. He will be back because you gave him
entirely possible.
Yeah.
But the being of value like that to people and not having the expectation, I think that's the key in entrepreneurship, because when we're first starting out, and like you said, the bank account is zero, there's a panicked energy of feeling like, oh, shit, I got to make this work. I got to sell something today. And that feeling, that energy, or whatever you want to call it, is felt by other people. And you have to be able to turn that off and truly, either be of value, be of service, show up powerfully still, even if the bank account is zero.
Yes, for sure. And that's very difficult to do. And I think a lot of it is when you're going into a call, it's that scarcity mindset. It's to think, this person owes me nothing.
Yeah.
And it's to think, I don't need to get anything from this. If I give value, I'll get what I deserve. And, deserve can sound like a strong or maybe a strange phrase to use, but actually the more value you give, the more you'll get back.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect segue into saying thank you for being here and having this conversation today. It was really fun. Thank you for the value equation. I will be using that for sure. That resonates with me a lot. And how can my listeners become fans of yours?
Oh, well, amazing. And vice versa, because we're streaming to my Instagram or my LinkedIn live right now. So I'm going to ask you the same thing, Suzanne. But people can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Deirdre Martin and I will come up. Look for the headline about uncopyable brands and you'll find me there. And what about you, Suzanne? Where can my followers find you?
Same, Suzanne Taylor-King on LinkedIn. That leads everywhere. Newsletter, website, all the things. I'm honored to have this conversation with you. And I look forward to more because there's so much synergy in what we do, yet you and I do different things. And I want to just say, this is an example of why you should connect with people who have the same label as you. So if you call yourself a business coach, like I used to, and like Deirdre used to, and don't think that you shouldn't connect with other business coaches, because there's a distinct possibility that clients of mine need Deirdre's unique expertise. And there's entirely possible that clients of Deirdre's could use part of my business acceleration process or my charisma code process. And when you actually open yourself up to that, this is my little soapbox for today. When you open yourself up to connecting with like minds who have a unique process for doing what they do, you are creating an inner circle referral network for yourself that will result in more business for you than anything else that you work on. So keep enhancing those relationships and deepen the ones that resonate with you, like Deirdre and I did today. And hopefully that inspires you to get out there and connect with some like minds.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Deirdre.
Such a pleasure, Suzanne. Let's do this again.
We will. I know it. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Unlock Your Way. I hope you found today's discussion inspiring and you're ready to take your business and personal growth to that next level. If you're feeling as fired up as I am and eager to unlock that full potential, I'm here to help you on your journey and provide that personalized guidance tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Simply book a one-on-one coaching call with me and we'll dive deep into your business aspirations and see how we could co-create a roadmap for your success. And whether you're striving to scale an enterprise or just getting started, I'm here to support you every step of the way. To schedule your coaching call, simply visit the website at unlockyourwaywithstk.com, click on the Book a Call button, and we'll turn your dreams into that reality. Subscribe and review on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Plus, you can join over 800 entrepreneurs in the Idea Lab Facebook group. Let's make success as an entrepreneur happen together. Until next time, I'm STK. Keep dreaming big, stay focused, and most of all, have fun while you're doing it.